Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that most people around you no longer think. The world has grown so loud, so frantic, and so drenched in information that the human mind, once the sharpest tool for discovery and growth, has dulled into passive acceptance. What happens to a society when questioning vanishes? When the ability to reason, challenge, and reflect is replaced by instant reactions, shallow opinions, and echo chambers? In this video, we'll uncover the disturbing reality behind the decline of critical thinking and the rise of what philosophers now call collective stupidity, a condition where masses adopt shallow ideas, blindly accept narratives, and quietly surrender their intellectual independence. And at the end, we'll reveal the most urgent truth of all, one that could decide whether we reclaim our minds or lose them entirely. Thinking is difficult, and today it's actively discouraged. Modern life doesn't reward reflection, it rewards speed, outrage, and conformity. And this is no accident. From algorithms that feed you only what you want to hear, to school systems that value memorization over curiosity, society is conditioning us away from real thought. Decades ago, Noam Chomsky warned about the manufacturing of consent, a process where power structures shape public opinion by drowning people in pre-packaged narratives. When people stop questioning and simply agree without understanding, they become easier to manage, and even easier to deceive. Critical thinking used to be a mark of human strength. Now, it's treated as inconvenient. It slows down debates, threatens ideologies, and dares to ask the most dangerous question of all. But is this true? So how did we reach this point? One major cause is the onslaught of information. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin found that the average person processes 5 times more information per day than just a few decades ago. We're bombarded by notifications, news, ads, and opinions every waking moment. But the human brain wasn't built for this kind of assault. When overloaded, it cuts corners. Instead of analyzing ideas, it relies on shortcuts, groupthink, biases, and cues from peers or influencers. This is called social proof, the psychological trick that makes us assume something is true just because many others believe it. It's not reason speaking, it's survival instinct. And this is why collective stupidity spreads so quickly. Not because people are dumb, but because they're being trained to follow signals instead of truth. Another driver is the collapse of focused attention. Neuroscientist Marianne Wolf shows how digital media is rewiring our brains. We skim, we scroll, we swipe. But deep reading, the kind that demands patience and focus, is vanishing. Yet critical thinking requires attention. You cannot analyze, question, or connect ideas if your mind is fractured by constant distraction. Ask yourself, when was the last time you read an entire article without checking your phone? When was the last time you paused to reflect instead of instantly reacting? These small habits, once normal, are now endangered. Carl Sagan warned decades ago, "We live in a society utterly dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone understands science and technology." His fear was not just ignorance, but the erosion of our very capacity to think critically about the systems that shape our lives. But the issue isn't just overload or distraction, it's also emotional. Thinking is uncomfortable. It forces us to admit uncertainty, to question cherished beliefs, to face truths that might tear down our sense of identity. And in a culture that worships certainty and confidence, admitting "I don't know" feels dangerous. So instead of engaging in honest dialogue, we defend, retreat, and memorize slogans. The result? A society drifting toward mental laziness, where silence becomes complicity and complicity becomes control. If you look at schools today, you'll see the problem magnified. The system was designed during the Industrial Revolution to create workers, not thinkers. Standardized tests reward memorization. Obedience is praised over curiosity. Children learn what to think, not how to think. And by the time they grow up, most have lost the courage to question. This isn't just a failure of education. It's a success for systems that rely on conformity. The philosopher John Dewey once said, "Democracy has to be born anew every generation, and education is its midwife." Without critical thinking, democracy itself begins to rot. But perhaps the most powerful weapon against thinking is in your pocket. Social media was designed to keep you scrolling, not questioning. Every click, every like, every outrage post is part of a massive psychological experiment. The platforms don't care about truth. They care about engagement. Outrage spreads faster than reason, and simple lies outcompete complex truths. This is why conspiracy theories thrive while nuanced debate dies. This is why echo chambers form, not because people hate truth, but because algorithms profit from division. Michel Foucault once described a prison design called the panopticon, where inmates could never know when they were being watched, so they disciplined themselves. Today, social media is our panopticon, except instead of fear, it uses addiction. When you combine information overload, shallow education, and manipulative technology, the result is a mind caught in psychological traps. Confirmation bias, the comfort of only seeking evidence that confirms what we already believe. Groupthink, the illusion of safety when we silence doubts just to belong. Authority bias, the instinct to obey voices of power even when they contradict reason. Each of these shortcuts once helped humans survive in tribes, but today they are weapons used against us. They keep us from truth. They keep us passive. They keep us predictable. But here's the most dangerous part. Collective stupidity doesn't just make people ignorant, it makes them silent. When fewer people question, injustice goes unchallenged. When fewer people think, power grows unchecked. When fewer people reflect, humanity itself weakens. History shows this pattern again and again. From empires to dictatorships, from witch hunts to propaganda campaigns, the decline of critical thought always marks the beginning of collective collapse. This is why reclaiming critical thinking isn't just an intellectual task. It's a spiritual one. To think is to resist. To think is to honor the dignity of being human. To think is to refuse the easy lie in favor of the hard truth. Socrates was condemned for corrupting the youth of Athens, but what he was really guilty of was teaching them to question. His death is a reminder. Societies don't fear ignorance, they fear thought. So here's the challenge. The next time you hear a story, see a headline, or feel the rush of agreement with the crowd, stop. Ask yourself, do I know this? Or am I just repeating it? Train your mind to resist the easy path. Read slowly. Question often. Dare to be the one who thinks when others refuse. Because if we lose our capacity to think, we lose more than intelligence. We lose freedom. We lose truth. We lose ourselves. And in a world drowning in noise, the rarest act of rebellion left is silence, followed by thought.